Hey guys, welcome back to the latest episode of the Growing a Dental Practice podcast. I am your host, Mike Hennan from Patient Boost. In today's episode, I'm joined by one of the biggest names in dentistry, Ashley Latter. For 25 years, Ashley has been the go-to sales and communication coach for dental professionals around the world. He's written 4 books and delivered over 34,000 hours of dental business coaching. Simply, he is the best at getting dentists and their teams to communicate with their patients, which results in a world-class patient journey, more patients saying yes to treatment plans, and increased profits for practices. Welcome to the show, Ashley. Thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Really good, thanks, Mike. Thanks for asking. Yeah,
it's great.
It's
Great to
Friday.
have you on board. It is Friday. Yeah, we're recording this on a Friday. I don't know about you, but it feels like a long week. I don't know if you're experiencing
Well,
that.
I've been delivering courses at the start of the week in Edinburgh, so we did courses there Monday, Tuesday. So I travelled up on Sunday. We did an evening program as well. I did an evening last night to podiatrists. I've never worked with podiatrists before, so we did a webinar with those guys last night. There was about 80 podiatrists last night. So so this is my 6th day, long days. So I am ready for a weekend.
Okay, cool. I'm going to take it back. I have not had a hard weekend like that, a week like that. So that's intense, man. Is that a typical week for Ashley Latter? Like, is that a?
I would say I'm delivering 3 or 4 lectures, courses a week in different parts of the country. So next week, next week I leave Tuesday, and I come back the following Wednesday. So I'm actually away for 8 days on the row, working a lot down in London. But because of the travel, I've just decided to stay down there for the weekend as well. So it's a busy time at the moment. But not complaining, all good.
Fantastic, brilliant. Right then, let's dive in then. So before we get into how you help dentists, let's just get just try and learn a bit more about you. So tell me about you. What's your background?
So this is my 31st year of delivering courses, business communication training. So I started out my career originally with the world famous Dale Carnegie training organization. So I took a Dale Carnegie course and ended up joining the business, primarily at the start, just selling the courses. So my area was Salford and Trafford Park and parts of Manchester, and I was my task was to put the courses on in those areas and fill them. So that was my job. That was my role for 8 years there. That's primarily what I did. And then after about year 2, I trained to become an instructor. So I started delivering the communication courses, the leadership course, and eventually went on to deliver the sales training course. And that was the program I loved the most passion for. And I ended up, in short, becoming an international master trainer. So I went around the world training trainers to become trainers in the sales, helping the different franchisees in the world get sales training off the ground, because I was really, like I said, I had a real passion for it. I used to write the material for the Carnegie organization. So that's primarily how I started. And then a few years in, I started, a couple of dentists took a course with me, a sales course, and I was racking my brains why a dentist were taking a sales course with me. And they were technically great. They could do all the dentistry, but what they weren't particularly good at was selling it. They would often talk too technical. They weren't good at discussing fees. So if the fee was £1,000, it would come out as $850, and they would write large treatment plans and say, "Go home and think about it." So these were dentists that were great technically, but not particularly good at communication. They took the course, and I followed them up a few weeks later. And basically, the 2 phone calls to these dentists changed my life, because both those dentists told me that their treatment plan accepted increased, more patients saying yes, they weren't discounting, the books were full. But what they both said something to me was really, for the first time ever, we're doing the dentistry we want to do, and our patients really want this. And And when they said that, I said, wow, that was really powerful, because it was really, they spent thousands on technical courses, but really hadn't spent much time learning how to communicate what they could do. So they told their mates, and about 6 months later, I walked into a room with 26 dentists, and I trained my first ever ethical sales and communication course. It was in Oxford. It was an incredible 2 days, and I remember ringing all these dentists up over a few weeks, and they all were saying the same. And that's how I started working in the dental industry. So for the last 24 years now, 23 years or so, it's solely dentistry. That's all I do is we deliver about 10 different programs, from practice management to entrepreneur program to ethical sales, communication. I have I'm speaking to today from my actual training center itself here. Written books, and we do this all over the world, Singapore, India, Australia, America. It's incredible. Fantastic. Really, just from 2 dentists.
Yeah.
So I always say to dentists, awesome. Make phone calls every day to your patients, see how they are, ask them, they came in for difficult treatment, just see if they're coping okay, because you never know where those phone calls could lead to, but the goodwill it brings is phenomenal, and very few people do it. And when you do it well, and the feedback I've got has been tremendous. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you start, obviously, a passion for sales. When you first started sales, was it for like anyone in every organization? So it wasn't specialized?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate, because I live in North Manchester, but I was very fortunate that Trafford Park and Salford, they got some of the biggest industrial estates in the whole of Europe. So you've got companies after companies after companies. So it was really easy. It wasn't easy, it was hard, but it was so we used to put the programs on, say a Monday or a Tuesday evening. We do evening courses, and we would enroll people from all these businesses from the Trafford Park area. So typically we could have 25 delegates with 25 different industries, so it was great, and we did, and I was selling the courses all day, and then I would teach them at night time, and get to about Friday at 4 o'clock, and that was me done for the weekend,
That was you, exhausted. And then it was literally because 2 dentists, they obviously recognized that they needed to work on that side of their skills. And then, it just sort of clicked, and then you've suddenly, that's been your journey ever since.
It has. Yeah. Amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And I've delivered about 34,000 hours now of training and then I probably spent 34,000 hours in bars and restaurants with dentists as well. So
you've done your time.
I've done my time.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, and I think I've recognized this as well. Like, dentists are always up for doing extra sort of clinical courses, up in their sort of dentistry skills. Why is it that dental professionals, dentists and their teams, why do they struggle with sales and communication? Like, why is that a gap that you need to fill?
Well, I think they've obviously gone to university dental school, and they've learned the trade. I suppose really they're like technicians or engineers, so they can fix the problem. What they've never been trained or coached in is actually how to communicate what they do. So they haven't been taught that at university. Somebody once told me there was an hour lecture on communication, but that 1 hour was somebody lecturing at them. Now, if you think about it, in a consultation, we have all sorts of dentists come on our courses. So I've just been speaking to a client now who's a specialist, and we're going to be working with his practice. They place implants, they do a lot of endo, perio work, and they want specific training for all of those specialities. So they know technically how to deliver the dentistry, but what they're not being taught is actually how to communicate it, how to find out what your patient's wants and needs are. They've never been taught how to ask the right questions. They've never been taught they're very technical, so they tend to talk technical. I always talk about the aeroplane and the destination. Patients are interested in the destination. They're not that bothered about the aeroplane to get there. But dentists love to talk about the plane. So they talk too technical and it confuses patients. And when a patient's confused, they typically don't take action. So we teach them how to build rapport, how to ask the right questions, how to talk in a way that excites and the patients understand the benefits, and how to discuss fees. So many dentists, if they've gone through the national health system, everything's been free. And now all of a sudden they've got to say 3,000. Well, they've never been taught that skill, how to discuss fees. So it's getting them to value themselves and to see the difference and the worth that they bring. And we teach them, about how to present fees with confidence and not to undercharge and not to discount in the head. So these are things that we bring to the table. And in a consultation, 85% of your success is going to be down to skills, your communication skills, and your attitude. And only 15% is applicable to the product knowledge. But most dentists spend all their time learning the product knowledge, and we focus and coach dentists to spend time learning the 85%, and that's what makes the difference. Yeah. Long-winded answer to a short question.
Yeah. No, perfect. That's what we want on the show. So tell me a bit more about your approach. Obviously, it's your sort of world famous program is the ethical sales and communication training.
Yeah.
When we talk about ethical, what does that mean? Like, is that just describe what that actually entails?
Well, ethical means not providing treatment that the patient don't want or needs. It's not pushing, it's not cajoling, which often you might see in salespeople, in your normal day-to-day life. So what we're about is really connecting with the patient, how to build rapport, how to build that relationship, how to ask the right questions, how to become genuinely interested in the patient. And then when you're solving problems, solve the problems in a language the patient understands, and it's a win-win. So the patient wins and you win. But if you think about it, in any treatment that you offer the patient, my view is that the patient always wins more than the dentist. If you just take, for example, let's talk about orthodontics as an example, or implant treatment, because that is two areas that we have a lot of dentists on. If you think about it, you provide the treatment, and if you bring the patient back 3 months later and you sat down in front of them and asked them, the benefits they've gained in their lives and what differences it made, and was it a good investment of both time and money, you'll find your patients will say yes, and they'll often say, I wish I'd done it earlier. You've changed my life. So at the end of the day, on all treatments, I've just been talking to a specialist now. He wants me to come in and work with his hygienist and perio, because it's how to get that treatment across to patients and get them to understand the need to take action. Well, they think that their treatments are expensive, but actually it's not, because at the end of the day, if they don't have it, then patients will eventually lose teeth, and then it's going to cost them a lot more to have. It's going to cost them a lot more in treatment later on. But it's also really, in a way, the patient will always win more than the dentist, and that's what I mean by ethical. And so we teach dentists a very ethical way, but it's all based around the building of rapport and developing long-term relationships.
Fantastic. So is that like that? Just how you get the patient to take the best decision for themselves?
Yeah,
obviously in a non-salesy manner.
correct.
And I guess that's why I guess you've been so successful. Is it's sales but without being salesy?
Yeah, correct? It is.
Like,
I mean, it's interesting. We get dentists who come on our course, and when we speak to them a month later, and they say, Ashley, you know what? You taught me how to sell, but I don't feel like I'm selling. So we teach dentists how to sell without selling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess that makes it way more attractive than
correct
like some sort of hardcore, like always be closing, that kind of
correct
sales mentality. That fair play, fantastic. What are some tips that listeners can sort of take away right now? Obviously, if they want the full Ashley Latta treatment, they need to jump on a program.
Yeah.
But what are some bits that you can? What are some some things that they can implement sort of straight away just from listening to the podcast?
I think the main thing I would say to dentists is the ability to stop selling and asking questions. There are thousands and thousands of pounds and opportunities with your existing patients coming in, and dentists have if you ask me for one tip. So they ask the patient, "How's everything? Okay, blah, blah, blah. Do you have any problems?" And the patient says, "No, I'm fine." And that's the end of the conversation. So they will do the exam and that's that. But if you were to ask your patient, I've never asked this question before to you, Mike, but is there anything at all that you'd like to change or improve about your smile? If so, what would it be? And if you just asked just that one question, you'd be surprised at how many times patients will come back and say, "Well, I'm glad you've asked me that because I've never liked this, or this has always bothered me." And when I speak to dentists months after my course, just that one thing alone, and I think we give dentists 40, 50 game changers, but just that one thing alone, the dentists say to me that patients are coming back and saying they want this, this, this. And they say, "Well, how come you never told me this before?" And the patient says, "I didn't know you did this treatment," or "You never asked." And just that one thing alone would make a big difference to your to creating more opportunities.
Just asking the patient, ask the question, that one question, is there anything you'd like to change about your smile?
Yeah.
That could be a game changer for anyone
Absolutely.
listening. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
And actually, you saying that, a patient might turn around to you and say, "I didn't realize you did that." I've had that a lot of times, where a dentist will mention that someone's come in that they've known for years, and they've been taking like Invisalign treatment in another practice, and they didn't realize, and they're like, "Well, why didn't you do it with me?" Like, it's like, "Well, I didn't know you did it."
Correct.
So I think that I'd hate to think how much missed opportunity there is because the practice didn't communicate with the patients, the full range of services, or they didn't ask the right questions. So that's fantastic, man. And obviously, work with a lot of dentists. Obviously, your ethical sales communication training is one of your biggest programs. What are some of the other things that you can do for dentists and their practices? Like, I know you can help people with the front desk. Is that correct? Front reception?
I mean, we can basically do, if you take the soft skills, we can really cover every single base. So one of the things that I've just come off the Zoom call with a client is we're going to be going in and doing the whole patient journey from start to finish, from how you take a new inquiry, how you turn it into an appointment, to the whole consultation, patient coming in, the questions we ask, how we present the solution, and ultimately, hopefully, that the patient's committed. They want to go ahead with the treatment. So my forte is really working with practices on creating what I call a world-class patient journey from start to finish. And that's the area that I really tend to focus on. But we have courses for everybody. The practice manager, we have a brilliant practice manager club now where we work with practice managers over a period of time, over a year. And some of those meetings are brilliant because practice managers tend to be very lonely. They're doing this job and they come on and work with other PMs and they get such solace from that. Reception courses, how to take inquiry, turn it into appointment. We did 18 mystery calls yesterday to dental practices, and it was just, it really is an area that if I could give you another tip, if there's any practice owners listening to this, I would certainly get friends or colleagues to do mystery calls to your practice. You really need to listen to how your reception team deal with inquiries. And that's a big area that I strongly suggest, because these people at your desk are responsible for thousands and thousands of pounds worth of opportunities, and they're sometimes often poorly trained. And I think the other area is we've got an entrepreneur club now where I work and coach with a guy called Mike Hennan, and we coach entrepreneurs over a year, and again, those meetings are just fantastic. So we cover more or less all the bases really for a dental practice.
But yeah, pretty much anywhere where there's an element of communication between the practice and the patient. I want to go back to the receptionist thing, because we've also been doing sort of secret shopper calls. I've seen there are other people in dentistry that have been doing the same, and yeah, the results are genuinely pretty poor. Which, like you say, is really crazy, because, like, they are, and I don't know if you would agree, like, I think sometimes the receptionist that people hire receptionists just aren't like, I just need someone to answer the phone call. Like, I just need someone to answer the phone call, check patients in, but they don't realize how integral that person is to, like, the entire patient experience. And then, therefore it just kind of goes downhill, and that person on the phone is the first impression that your practice gives off, is that usually that person. And why don't practices like hire salespeople for, like, the receptionist role? Like, is that something that you've ever talked about? Or
do you know what? Here's my beef on this, and do you know what? I reckon most people will disagree with me about what I'm about to say. And I hear this all the time. I hear, well, the nurse, she answers the phone sometime, and Doris answers the phone when Betty's not in. And, in my opinion, if I had a dental practice, I would want somebody who has been in sales or in customer service or some interaction to be answering my phone. And they would be, and again, I'm biased, but they would be professionally trained on how to deal with new inquiries and turn them into appointments. And for me, it's not a job that when someone's not in, we'll just put someone else in. Does that make sense? And I think it's a highly skilled, important role to your practice, because if you're marketing, which obviously you can get involved in, and you're creating leads and opportunities for the practice, well, then you want somebody doing that job full time, and they have to be really good in communication. They have to be good in sales, customer service, and in my opinion, that's the type of person I would want answering the telephone in my practice. It doesn't have to be anybody from another practice before. You have an open mind. I was in Costa Coffee the other week, and I was sat there minding my own business, and I was watching the lady behind the desk desk counter, and she was absolutely brilliant, absolutely amazing. She was based in London, and I looked at her, I thought, if I had a business, I'd be going up to her, and I'd want her to be my front of house, because I think with her attitude and a bit of training, she'd be absolutely brilliant. And that's the type of thing. So I would be, if you're a practice owner, listen to this, have a very open mind, have your business cards in your pocket, because you will bump into these people anywhere. And that's the type of person you want on your front desk. 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think at the moment, yeah, they don't fully appreciate the importance of the receptionist role, the phone answering role. And yeah, it's usually put the wrong person in. And yeah, I think you're right. Like that, they should be like a dedicated person. They should be like trained on sales. And yeah, but I guess it's going to take a bit of time. Do you think, or do you think the dentistry is set in its own ways?
I'm flying the flag.
Yeah,
but I've only got a few more years left. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I just think it is, in my opinion, it is your shop window, and you want to put your best person in the shop window. You want to put the best. If you've got a clothes shop, you want the best clothes in there that's going to draw people to come into your shop. And in my opinion, the receptionist is that key to your business. And it has, I was we did some course to these podiatrists as well, so I could just get a feel before I delivered the course last night. I'm doing 6 sessions, by the way, for podiatrists, and I wanted to get a feel. And I was ringing up these podiatrists and asking for information, and the things that they were telling me on the phone, we're going to use acid, needles, it's very expensive, it's £800, sometimes the treatments, things that they were telling me, You know, it's mind-boggling. It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Sorry, did they use the word very
Yeah,
expensive?
I've got it all down here. Yeah, yeah. Honestly,
Oh my own word.
yeah.
Okay, right. I think
And you
you
have to
said a
pay.
few more
You
years,
have to pay
Ashley.
that all in. You have. It's going to be 4 treatments. It's £800. It is expensive, and it has to be paid all in one go. I mean, the things that I got told on the phone last night were over this week making these calls. Yeah, mind-boggling.
Oh no. Oh no.
Mind-boggling.
I feel like you mentioned that you've never worked with a podiatrist before. I feel like you've opened a can of worms now, and
I have.
and that couple of years is going to extend. But oh man, awesome. Something that so I think I mentioned when we first spoke about this podcast. This podcast is primarily aimed at people that are either thinking about buying or starting a practice, or they have just bought or started the practice, and they've just got the keys, or they've just opened, and they're kind of like, what do I do next? So based on your experience of working in dentistry and obviously owning your own business, what would be your number one piece of advice for anyone thinking about buying or starting a dental practice? Like, what would that one thing be from your perspective?
Well, if you're buying an existing practice, the thing that you see, I mean, everything's important: location, the practice itself, the surgery, the equipment. You know, it goes without saying all that's important. But the most important thing, the most important asset is the patients. So if I'm buying a practice, I want to know how many patients, and are they coming in regular? Have you got a proper? Because I've heard some horror stories when dentists have bought practices, and they have they've been told one thing about how many number of patients they got, but the actual reality is completely different. And the number one asset in your business is the patient database. That's the number one asset. I have a beautiful training center here. It's stunning. I've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on it. It's a beautiful building, but my main asset is my database of clients. It's all those people I've spoken to over 25 years in the dental industry. Those names, those addresses, those emails, that's the asset. Because without that, this place doesn't exist. So if you're asking me what one of the most important pieces, if you buy an existing practice, is, the asset is the patient base. I would study that patient base and make sure that what actually is being told you actually is fact. If you're starting a squat practice, and remember again, the most important thing is the patient. I'd put a big sign up outside your shop, big banner saying, "We are taking new patients, please come in," or something to that effect, and get them to sign in and get them enrolled on a membership plan. Because if you can get them on a membership plan, then you've got, again, a great asset, key patients that value what you do, who are regular. And if you come to sell that practice later on, if you've got an asset with several thousand patients on a membership plan, then it increases the value of your dental practice. So always remember, the asset is the patient.
Fantastic. I think great advice there, Ashley. How can people contact you if they're interested in one of your programs or one of your books?
Okay, so best way of getting hold of me is to visit the website, ashleylata.com. That's spelled Ashley, ASHLEY, Lata, LATTER.com. And we send a newsletter out once a week full of tips and tricks and things like that. And you can buy the books, and there's a great place to seek us out. And then we record a podcast called Two Reds Are Better Than One with Chris Sparrow, which is getting some great feedback from clients who listen to this on a regular basis. And we've got a YouTube channel as well. So if you just type in my name, there's probably a good 150 videos on there, things you can learn and pick up. Yeah,
Fantastic.
There's a few places nowadays.
Brilliant. Few places, yeah, excellent. I'll make sure that they are all in the show notes.
Okay, thank you.
Ashley, this has been fantastic. I've learned a lot. I know the listeners will too. thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you giving your time and sharing your your story and your experience.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Right, bye guys. Until next time. Bye.